And the manager just says, what's going on here? And this woman said, she won't let us sit down. We want to go to sit down. And I said, but Mr. Batten, that was his name, Batten. I said, it's Hitchcock. You know,
Carol Burnett spent decades making America laugh. Through The Carol Burnett Show, she became the face of warmth, humor, and kindness. Fans believed she was endlessly patient, someone who never held grudges and always chose grace over drama. That image stuck for years. But in her 90s, Carol finally let the mask slip. She revealed a side of her story no one saw coming. Behind the smiles were deep wounds caused by powerful men who embarrassed her in public, belittled her behind closed doors, and even tried to take credit for work she fought hard to create. These weren't small slights. They were moments that stayed with her for life. What pushed a woman known for elegance into carrying that kind of anger for decades? The truth is intense, and it hits harder than anyone expected. Number one on that list was Marlon Brando, the legend who crossed a line and never came back from it. Carol never forgave him, not once. This was the biggest name tied to her resentment, the one that makes people stop and say, wait, that Marlon Brando? Yes, the icon, the untouchable star, the man whose behavior made Carol Burnett refuse to be in the same room with him ever again. Whenever this story comes up, people always ask the same thing. What did Brando even do? And here's the truth. It was far worse than the rumors floating around Hollywood. This wasn't gossip. This was personal. It happened in the summer of 1972, just months after The Godfather turned Brando into an acting god. Carol was asleep in her own home when her housekeeper shook her awake because the phone would not stop ringing. Half asleep, Carol picked up the phone and instantly heard a slow, amused voice she recognized right away. He said, "Carol, this is Marlon Brando. I've been watching you." At first, she laughed, thinking it was a prank. Hollywood loved impressions, and Brando was known for jokes. But then the tone shifted, and everything changed. He added, "You'd be even better if you loosened up like the actresses I've spent time with." That wasn't praise, it was a power move. A loaded comment from a man who believed rules didn't apply to him. Carol ended the call as calmly as she could, but her hands were shaking when she hung up. And the real shock didn't even come until the next morning. A reporter from The Hollywood Reporter contacted her publicist, claiming Brando had spoken about Carol's femininity during a late-night phone call. Someone leaked it, and Carol was completely blindsided. Things got even uglier when a journalist asked Brando directly if the story was true. He smirked and said, "She took it too seriously." Then he doubled down, adding, "Comedians are sensitive women." That was the moment everything clicked for Carol. This wasn't admiration, it was disrespect wrapped in arrogance. 2 days later, Carol told a close friend, "I felt small, and I've spent my whole life fighting not to feel small." That feeling stuck with her. From that moment on, she gave her PR team one clear rule: no exceptions. If Brando was attending an event, she wouldn't be there. And she meant it, sticking to that decision for the next 30 years without backing down. Number 2 on the list shocked people even more. Cary Grant, the so-called Hollywood gentleman who embarrassed her in front of everyone. His name still makes people pause because he was known as polished, charming, and untouchably classy. Perfect suits, perfect manners, perfect image, or so everyone thought. Carol never erased the memory of the night Cary Grant cut her down in front of the most powerful crowd in Hollywood. It happened in 1968 at a Beverly Hilton gala, one of those glossy events where everyone smiled, posed, and pretended to love each other while judging quietly from across the room. At that moment, Carol had just become America's comedy favorite, while Grant sat at the center table like royalty, receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. When the ceremony wrapped up, Carol walked over to congratulate him. She looked confident, glowing, completely unaware she was stepping into something ugly. A director standing nearby tried to keep things light and joked, "Cary, you've seen Carol's show, right? She's got the whole country laughing." Grant didn't pause for even a second. He smirked and, loud enough for several nearby tables to hear, said, "Laughing at what?" Waving her arms around and making faces. "I don't understand why people find that appealing." The room went cold. Carol froze on the spot. She wasn't fragile. She'd dealt with hecklers before. But this was different. This was a screen legend tearing down her work in public just because he could. She kept her composure, like she always did. But as she turned to walk away, Grant leaned toward Elizabeth Taylor and delivered the line that sealed his place on Carol's personal blacklist forever. He said, "She's not a real actress. She's a housewife who got lucky." That wasn't wit. That was cruelty dressed up as charm. Carol didn't fire back. She didn't need to. Hollywood buzzed about that moment for months, replaying it in whispers behind studio doors. Later, Carol told a close friend, "I didn't hate him for disliking my comedy. I hated that he said it to humiliate me." That distinction mattered to her, and it stayed with her. 2 years later, Paramount came calling with what they called a dream offer, a musical comedy starring Carol opposite Cary Grant. Her answer was instant and final. No hesitation. Her team pushed hard, telling her it could be career-defining. Carol shut it down every time with the same 7 words: "I won't work with a man who belittles women." Grant never apologized, and Carol never backed off. Number 3 brings us to a very different kind of enemy. Lorne Michaels, the power broker who quietly shut Carol out for nearly 50 years. What went wrong between 2 comedy giants who never even shared a stage? The truth isn't polite, and it definitely isn't about scheduling conflicts. The tension traces back to one brutal phrase Carol heard about Lorne, a line that burned deep enough for her to never forgive. It started in 1975, the year Saturday Night Live premiered. Carol was still dominating CBS with the Carol Burnett Show, and critics kept repeating the same idea everywhere. If anyone deserves to host SNL, it's Carol Burnett. That idea never made it on air, not because Carol declined and not because she was unavailable. The real reason came from a private NBC meeting. During a pitch session for season 2, someone casually suggested, "What about Carol Burnett? She'd be historic." According to multiple accounts, Lorne leaned back, shook his head, and said the words that spread through NBC like wildfire. "Not her. She's the face of old television. Over my dead body." Harsh? Absolutely. But he didn't stop there. A staff member later recalled him adding, "Her kind of comedy makes us look outdated." And just like that, a door slammed shut without Carol ever stepping into the room. Number 4 shocked even longtime fans because this wasn't a loud insult or a public jab. It was something quieter, colder, and far more calculated. This one involved a powerful network executive who smiled to Carol's face while quietly pushing her out of rooms she helped build. His name stayed out of headlines, but his actions spoke loud. In the late 1970s, as Carol's show neared its final seasons, executives started whispering about new energy and younger voices. On the surface, it sounded harmless. Behind the scenes, it wasn't. Carol learned that meetings about her own time slot were happening without her, even though she was still pulling massive ratings. A producer later told her what really happened. In a closed-door discussion, when someone suggested extending the Carol Burnett show, the executive laughed and said, "She's past her moment. America wants something fresher." That line traveled fast and it landed hard. Carol wasn't angry because television evolves. She understood that. What cut deep was the disrespect. This was a woman who changed sketch comedy forever, being dismissed like an outdated prop. Worse, she discovered her ideas were being recycled for new shows without credit, pitched as modern updates to concepts she created years earlier. When Carol confronted the situation privately, the response was smooth and chilling. She was told, "Don't take this personally, it's just business." But Carol knew better. She later said to a friend, "It's always personal when someone erases your work and pretends you were never there." From that moment on, Carol made another quiet decision. She stopped attending certain network events. She stopped returning calls. And when younger performers asked why she stayed distant from executives who praised her publicly, she answered plainly, "Watch what they do, not what they say." This wasn't about ego. It was about respect, ownership, and being pushed aside after giving everything. And just like the others before him, that executive never got another ounce of access to Carol Burnett. Not her time, not her talent, and definitely not her forgiveness. The words hit Carol fast and hard. SNL isn't a retirement home. She heard about the comment within days, and when it reached her, she didn't explode or make a scene. No angry calls, no public demands, no media drama. She went quiet, ice-cold quiet, the kind that says everything without saying much at all. Privately, she summed it up in one calm sentence that said more than any argument ever could. "I spent my whole life opening doors for women in comedy. He slammed one shut without even meeting me." That was it. No shouting, no press tour, just a line drawn in stone. As the years passed, the situation only got stranger. NBC tried to include Carol in the Saturday Night Live 10th anniversary special, thinking time might have softened things. Instead, Lorne shut it down with a handwritten note that said, "Not relevant, not funny, not happening." Carol never saw the note herself, but the story reached her anyway, and that was more than enough. In 2023, when someone asked if she regretted never hosting SNL, Carol smiled and answered smoothly, "They didn't need me, and I learned I didn't need them either." No bitterness, no anger, just clarity. That was her final punch, quiet but sharp, and that relationship was never repaired. Next comes a name that shocked people even more, because this one wasn't an outsider. Number 4 was Harvey Korman, a trusted partner who broke her heart right on set. His name sat heavy on Carol Burnett's private list, and the reason hurt worse than any public insult. Audiences loved their chemistry. Hollywood assumed they were inseparable, comedy soulmates who trusted each other completely. Carol believed that too, until one afternoon in 1974, when something snapped during a routine rehearsal at Studio 33. It was supposed to be a normal day. Petula Clark had just finished her run-through. The lighting crew adjusted positions. Harvey prepared for a sketch he'd done countless times. Then a small lighting mistake darkened his mark, and that tiny issue lit a fuse nobody saw coming. Harvey threw his script to the floor and snapped at the crew, shouting, "How hard is it to do this right? I'm tired of cleaning up her mistakes." Carol heard every word. He wasn't talking about the lights, he was talking about her. The room went dead silent. Carol didn't lash out. She looked stunned more than angry. She walked toward him calmly, holding herself together in front of her team, and said softly, "Harvey, why would you speak to them like that?" Instead of backing down, Harvey's voice rose, sharp and loaded with resentment. "Maybe I'm done being second on the Carol Burnett show." That line cut deeper than any yelling. It exposed a jealousy Carol never imagined he carried. She didn't argue. She stepped away, went into her dressing room, locked the door, and cried quietly where no one could see. 3 days later, Harvey returned with an apology. He told her, "I forgot why I started doing comedy." Carol accepted it because kindness was who she was. But later she told Vicki Lawrence something that said it all. Forgiving him didn't fix what broke. The show survived, but their friendship didn't. Number 5 goes even deeper and hurts even more. Joe Hamilton, the husband who betrayed her trust, sat firmly on Carol Burnett's list of men she could never fully forgive. This wasn't a professional slight or a public insult. This one came from inside her own home, and the damage ran deep. The world saw Joe Hamilton as her husband, her producer, her partner, the man beside her while one of television's most beloved shows was being built. What Carol didn't know at the time was that he was also quietly reshaping her legacy behind her back without permission or credit. The unraveling began in 1982, long after their marriage had started showing cracks. While reviewing routine paperwork, Carol's lawyer noticed something strange. Joe had registered a new company called Hamilton Productions, and under that name were several spin-off ideas pulled directly from sketches on The Carol Burnett Show. One of those projects was Mama's Family, built entirely around Carol's signature character. Yet somehow, Carol wasn't listed as a co-owner, a creator, or even a contributor. When she confronted Joe in their CBS office, she expected confusion, maybe a mistake. What she got instead was chilling clarity. Joe didn't deny anything. He leaned back, folded his arms, and said a sentence Carol later repeated to friends word for word. "You are the talent. I'm the brain. I know how to handle business." That wasn't just ego. It was a confession. He had been separating his financial future from hers while still treating her creations as his property. Carol later told Vicki Lawrence, "It felt like he'd taken my heart and stamped a logo on it. But the worst part hadn't even hit yet." Weeks later, Carol overheard 2 CBS employees whispering in a hallway about Joe's new life with a younger editor he'd been seen dining with at the Showhouse restaurant. What crushed her wasn't the affair itself. It was realizing this wasn't new. The relationship had been going on for years, while she carried the weight of the show and their family alone. That night, Carol went home, sat at her dining table, and said the truth out loud to herself, "I don't recognize the man I married." Not long after, she filed for divorce. Joe didn't step back quietly. He fought aggressively for ownership of Carol's work, insisting he deserved profits from the very show she built from the ground up. The court battle dragged on for nearly a year, draining her emotionally and professionally, pulling energy away from the work she loved. When Joe died in 1991, Carol didn't attend the funeral. She sent white flowers with a simple note that read, "I wish you peace." Privately, she admitted something far more honest. Some wounds don't heal with time, they just settle. Carol Burnett gave the world laughter, warmth, and joy, yet these 5 men left scars she never showed on camera. Behind the smiles was a woman who absorbed betrayal, disrespect, and loss without letting it harden her heart. After everything you've heard, one question lingers. Which betrayal do you think cut her the deepest? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if you felt something real, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.